If you're watching this video, my guess is I don't have to remind you that Georgia gave up 502 passing yards in its SEC championship win against LSU, but the good news is that secondary has had about a month to regroup, recharge, and get back to fundamentals before facing Ohio State in the Peach Bowl. Hey everybody, this is Sarah Spencer with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and this is Know Your Dogs. Today's episode is basically gonna be talking about the matchup between Georgia's secondary and Ohio State's offense. To help me preview this matchup, I'll be joined by Georgia co-defensive coordinators Glenn Schumann and Will Muschamp, senior safety Chris Smith, and for Ohio State, offensive coordinator Kevin Wilson, and wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., and of course, my coworker, our Georgia beat writer Chip Towers, so stay with us.
We've just been focusing on our technique and our fundamentals with this about a month that we had been able to practice to get prepared for this game and just locking in on a game plan. That game's in the past. We didn't perform our best and we could perform better, and that's what we want to do for this game on Saturday.
Let's talk about some of the weapons that make this Ohio State offense so deadly. First, they've got 2,000-yard receivers in Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka. And then, of course, at quarterback, they've got C.J. Stroud, who's third in the country in touchdown passes with 37. Georgia co-defensive coordinators Glenn Schumann and Will Muschamp really bragged on Stroud's ability to use those weapons around him to his advantage.
I think in general, when you have a extremely talented player like he is, it's never one play. Consistency is what makes somebody different, right? And he's consistently accurate. He has great touch. He's a good decision maker, and he trusts his playmakers around him. And so I think that all of those traits sound easy, but they're tough to have on a consistent basis. So he's consistently accurate. He consistently has good touch and decision making, and he trusts the people around him. And I think his consistency is what makes him different.
Wow, I think that he's an elite passer. That's the first thing that jumps out. He can make all the throws. He puts the balls in catchable areas where a lot of just don't have that talent to do that. A lot of people don't have that talent to do that, and he certainly can. I think it was Michigan State 2 years ago. He takes a zone read 70 yards for a touchdown against Northwestern this past year, 5:30 left to go in the game, designed quarterback run out the backside. So he has legs, athleticism to evade in the rush and create off-rhythm plays, which is obviously very difficult to defend. But the number one thing that jumps off the film is his ability to throw the football.
Ohio State offensive coordinator Kevin Wilson mentioned that when you look at Georgia, you don't just watch the tape, you feel the tape. Now, Georgia's secondary might give up 215.1 passing yards per game. That's actually 49th in the country, but Georgia still got the number 2 overall scoring defense in the country at 12.8 points per game. So by that logic, actually, LSU having so much passing success in the SEC championship but still losing is clearly not the recipe to beat the Bulldogs. Here's Wilson and wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. on what they're up against in Georgia's defense.
I just think, you look at those stats, but the result of the game was, they won the game by 20. So that wasn't necessarily the formula to win the game. And you're going to have to make plays in both phases, and third down conversions and short yardage conversions, score zone conversions. You look at the history of championship football games, there's not a lot of 9-7, 13-10 ball games. And we got two great defenses going at each other, but there's playmakers on offense, and when you look in the big-time plays, you got to score points. So we got to find a way not to have just yards passing or running. We got to find a way to get the ball in the end zone if we want a chance to win this game.
They play very fast. They play physical. I think one thing, they have a lot of confidence in themselves to make plays. That's what great players have. Confidence in themselves that they're going to trust their instincts and trust their abilities to go out there and make plays, and they've made plays all year for them. So we're just going to have to match their energy, whether that's in the run game or the pass games, because the receivers have to go out there and make plays and compete.
All right, everybody, let's bring in our Georgia beat writer, Chip Towers. Behind me, you can see kind of a faraway look at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But Chip, Georgia's secondary is going to get a really close-up look at this Ohio State offense, from quarterback C.J. Stroud to all the weapons that Ohio State has around him. Now, Georgia's faced some great passing teams already. Tennessee is one of those. They handled them. LSU had more success than I think a lot of people thought.
Oh, yeah.
But is this the biggest challenge the secondary has faced all season long?
Oh, I would definitely say so. From multiple standpoints, as you alluded to, Georgia was able to handle Tennessee pretty well at Sanford Stadium, which gave them some advantages playing in there, and certainly LSU had their way with them. But that was kind of a weird game overall, and did it matter, really, when you win by 20 points, 3 touchdowns? Certainly Georgia didn't want to give up 502 yards passing against LSU, but when you come back to Ohio State, man, this is what they do, and they do it really, really well. And they're going to be doing it in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, as you talked about, which is a controlled environment. It's a perfect environment.
Perfect environment to throw.
Whether you're a kicker or a quarterback or whatever, there's no wind resistance in here. The temperature's perfect. The ball travels. And so that's why you see some really dynamic offensive play inside Mercedes-Benz. And let me tell you, the Buckeyes can bring it.
2 guys that I want to talk about. Keely Ringo has had some struggles this season. Malachi Starks, I think overall has had a great year for Georgia, but he's a freshman, and you're going to have some freshman moments here and there. Now, of course, when a defensive back gets beat, it's almost unfair how obvious that is. Like, of all the mistakes you can make in football, that's one of the most glaring. But what do you need to see from those 2 guys if you're Georgia to make sure there aren't any weak spots for Ohio State to pick at?
Well, you're going to have to be aware that they're going to have some success, and you're going to have to be able to forget about it. We hear that cliche all the time. You have to have a short memory as a defensive back. I mean, it's going to happen. This is what they do, and these are great wide receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, these guys are both 1,000-yard receivers, so that's not smoke and mirrors they're doing that with. So it's going to be very important that if you give up a play, that you forget about it and you come back for the next one. Now, you alluded to Malachi Starks. That's really the bigger the problem, because when you're the safety, you're the last end of defense, and they have to be involved in the run game as well. You have to keep that shell intact. I imagine Malachi Starks has been drilled till he's blue in the face by Will Muschamp and Fran Brown and all them about not getting behind him. But the good news is Chris Smith is back there to kind of, call the shots and keep people where they're supposed to be. And the key is don't give up too many. You're going to give up some, just don't give up too many.
Chris Smith has been such a steady veteran presence for this Georgia defense all season long. I don't think this Georgia defense is the number 2 scoring defense in the nation without that presence. How big is he going to be against this Ohio State team?
Well, he's huge, and I'm going to do a profile on Chris Smith this week, and I just think he's a terrific story. I mean, he's from just beyond the other side of the bends over there. Hateville Charter School is where he cut his teeth in high school, and he's a guy in the age of the transfer portal that did not, that bided his time and waited until he didn't get a shot until Richard LeCount had a wreck,
right?
A motorcycle accident. And but look at him now. He's an All-American. He's going for his 2nd national championship ring. And think about the iconic plays that he's made. Think about Clemson. Think about what he did in the LSU game. It's really a beautiful story of an Atlanta kid playing here at Atlanta. He's real excited, but more important than that, he has a huge job, and that's all he wanted to talk about when we spoke to them this morning.
He was very even-keeled.
Very even-keeled, and he's just like, we've seen great receivers before, and these are as good as any of them.
Chip, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
Thanks to all of you for watching. Make sure you go to ajc.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel to follow along with Peach Bowl coverage all week long.